All right, welcome everybody to the next episode of the Digital Marketing Agency Builders podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Narducci, and I have today with me Sarah Noel Block. Sarah spent 7 years as a marketing department of one for a 5-company group. As challenging as it was, it gave her a valuable skill set. She learned to optimize time and budget through streamlining, systemizing, and automating to build an effective and efficient marketing department. Today, Sarah is a writer, editor, and content marketing strategist for facility services, construction, medicinal, real estate, and software companies. She works with time-strapped marketers and mid-sized B2B industries to build high-impact marketing without increasing headcount. Whew, you got a lot going on, Sarah. Sarah uses her tested and proven framework to streamline content marketing, social media, and email marketing through smart systems. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, when you read it all out loud, I'm like, gah.
Yeah,
I need a
I'm
nap.
like, she is all over marketing. I mean, I was just going through the list of construction, medical, real estate, SaaS. I mean, you are a one-woman powerhouse, and I love it. And that's really one of the cool things that we're going to talk about is uh, output. Increasing your output from just one person instead of having to build these massive teams like everyone assumes that you do. So that's what I'm really
Yeah,
excited to get
there's
into
like
today with you.
a big scaling culture, I feel like, where everyone thinks they need to grow their team. They need to grow their team. And it's really, maybe you should optimize your operations first before you add more
Yeah.
people on.
There's also something to be said about, you know, not everybody wants to have a giant, massive
Yes.
agency, right? Not everybody wants to have a giant business. Like that's a goal of many, and that's a great goal. But there are some people that they really just want to have a nice life, pay the bills, be their own boss, and
Yeah.
play by their own rules. And that's like their sweet spot. Like they're not trying to become a Fortune 500 company. And so not enough people talk about those people.
You're spot on because when I first started my business, I had so many contracts right off the bat that I made that mistake. I started adding people right away because I couldn't handle it at all. And I absolutely hated it. I
Yeah.
hated having a big team. And I just like moonwalked out of there and rearranged how I lived my life and my business.
Yeah. Working with so many like digital marketing agency owners, I've seen several of them slip into hiring before the work was even there to justify the hiring. And
I
that
don't
killed me.
understand that.
Killed me. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, so you hired this person, you agreed to pay them a salary or a monthly commitment to them financially, and now you're going to scramble to try and justify that cost. It made no sense to me.
No,
Um,
especially an agency because like contracts end, contracts start. You need to be really agile and be able to
yes,
have your team that set up in an agile way so you can add and release as needed.
absolutely. One of the ways that I've always, worked with agency owners to help them on this is when we build our team, it's contract based, like contractual
Mm,
based. So you get the work, you have the relationships ready to go in terms of contractors, fulfillment team, and you say, hey, you already established that relationship. So you go over to them, hey, we got a new job. We need more support. And then it's just a smooth
exactly.
transition up and down, which, like you said, agile. So let's just get right into it. I got lots to ask you, and I'm excited for this episode. So, can you tell us a little bit more about your time as a one-woman marketing department
Yeah.
running the 5-company group and what that was like? I can't even imagine.
I like to think of it like the spider that bit Spider-Man, like my origin story if I were a superhero, because it started off real messy, just like any superhero origin story, where I was just stumbling around trying to figure out how to make this work. So I was in a
Yeah.
situation where, yeah, I ended up advancing to a point where I was in charge of marketing for 5 companies. And I had to figure out how to do that when I had 5 different presidents, 7 at one point. We ended up getting rid of a couple of the companies, but 5 presidents breathing down my neck with their own ideas of what marketing should look like.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I stumbled around for a couple of years trying to figure
Yeah.
that out. But then I came up with my system, which I now call the Tiny Marketing Framework, where we streamline, systemize, automate, and now use AI, and then outsource the pieces that we can't optimize through operations and systems. And that is what I did for them. And starting off is building out a marketing strategy for that one client that you absolutely love and basically cloning them, creating a
Yeah.
marketing strategy that allows you to clone your favorite people.
Yeah, I love that. That I wanna just reference back to your experience in that company and how you had that origin story, because I have a similar origin story where I was working at a
Let's hear
company
it.
that just didn't appreciate me and was paying me very, very little. And I had this aha moment of like, wow, like I'm running all of their marketing and it's going well. Like we're doing really
Yeah.
good in terms of marketing. So like you're slowly starting to see the insane value that you bring to the table, and how that some in many cases working for a company it's not necessarily so appreciated, and you're like, I could replicate this value for a lot of other
Yeah.
a lot of other clients and start my own thing and be really successful. And it sounds like you kind of at some point you must have had that aha moment because you didn't
Yeah.
you
Yeah. I
it
work for
ended,
myself
right?
now.
Yeah.
I mean, I already had the experience of having to juggle multiple, I will call them clients, but they were all within the same group. So I
Hmm.
already knew how to do it. And so it was a really easy transition as far as that. Like all of the other pieces, like taxes, that was not an easy transition for me,
Oh, yeah, same.
but the client work was an easy transition for me. Um, but yeah, I still have a relationship with all of the people there and two are clients.
Hey, there you go. See, I tried to flip mine into a client when I left, but they were so offended that I would dare do my own thing instead of just, work with them,
Yeah,
that it didn't work out. So I made sure that I had enough clients before I, you know, pitched it to them, but it didn't go over well for me.
that's the way to go. I did the same thing where I had enough contracts before I left my full-time job to cover my salary.
Hmm.
And then now I worked for a couple other places after that experience. So it took them a couple years of being pissed at me, to be
Yeah.
fair, to end up becoming clients. And I was really lucky that the company I did leave when I started my full-time job, they also became a client
Yeah.
and they weren't salty.
See, that those are the best types of relationships, but we can't count on them. And I always like
Mm-mm.
hearing entrepreneurs in the digital marketing space, their story of kind of breaking free from that 9 to 5, going out on their own, and then finding, their own like successful thing like you did. So you have found a lot of success in the content space and content marketing space,
Hmm.
and helping people realize that you don't need a whole lot of people on a team to have a successful marketing strategy. Clearly you were successful for running a 5 brands all under one company. So it doesn't have to be as big as everyone thinks. But in terms
Yeah.
of content, I just want to start off like, what do you think is working well in terms of content marketing in 2023? Because we've gone through a lot of iterations.
Yes, we
I'm
have.
curious. Like, I remember when, like, back years ago, blogs were like a big thing, but like now, I don't think do blogs even really exist? Are they still use a tool? Like, I have a lot of questions for you on that.
They
What's working?
Yes, they are, but nobody says blogs anymore. Blog feels like such an outdated term. Now
It
we'll just say
does.
articles.
Okay.
um, but yeah, blog is still working. Actually, most of my traffic comes from SEO from my blogs, and I turn all of my podcasts into blog articles too.
Love it.
So it's still working. I'm more of a reader than anything else, so I'm always reading blogs over if someone posted a video. There's different types of learners, so it's good to meet people where they're at. But the things that are working right now would be if you are doing articles, make sure that you're bringing influencers and experts into the process and interviewing them and including them because one, you amplify your reach because they will also share it. But two, with AI, you need to have something more personalized in it. Like I love AI. I'm not going to say anything against it. I love AI. But you need that human element in it and you get that extra bonus of amplification. But
Yeah.
now right after I say I'm not super into video is huge in
Yeah.
2023, especially video podcasts. because like YouTube just a couple months ago launched their podcast stream. So
Yep.
pretty much every podcast is now recording the video from it and putting it on there. And one of my biggest drivers to my podcast is taking clips from the recordings of it and the
Yeah.
shorts. That's where
Yep.
I'm getting most of my views, is the shorts and people clicking through to listen to the whole podcast.
Yeah, same. I'm doing the same, and I'm finding a lot of success with it because it just gives you so much small content and short, social friendly content from one, long piece of content, which is like a video podcast. You put it out on the audio, you have it on YouTube for the full length, and then you have it on all your social media channels with little clips. Speaking of
Yeah.
AI, literally, I think my favorite AI tool by far is Opus Clip, which
I
does
use that
what you're saying.
too.
Isn't it amazing?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, somebody like I think several people probably lost their job when Opus Clip dropped because that is such
Yeah.
an amazing thing.
I feel so bad for my video editor because her work has been reduced a lot
Yeah,
because I've been using Opus, especially because, if I'm procrastinating and her videos are better. I will give
yeah,
her this. Her videos are so much better. But if I end up like producing something at the last minute, it's so much faster to do it that way. So
yeah,
I guess for anybody who's not aware of what Opus is, you can put your video in there and it will use AI to find the best hooks and create like 12 videos, 12 shorts in minutes. It's amazing. Also, speaking of AI, do you use Toasty AI for your
no, tell
podcast?
me about it.
My God, it is glorious. So I
I
try every
I'm
tool.
ready.
I'm a chronic beta tester, and this is the best one. So if you drop your podcast MP3 into it, it will create a show notes page for you, an article for you. It'll give you the highlights with timestamps. It'll give you the transcript. It'll give you social media posts. It is amazing.
Wow, what's that called again?
It's called Toasty AI,
Love
and
it.
they actually do a pretty good job of nailing your voice based off of the podcast in the article. So it doesn't
Wow.
sound wonky and weird.
That's amazing. I will definitely be checking that out. Guys, I've already given you two awesome AI tools in this episode, Opus Clip and Toasty.ai. If you're creating long form content, then this type of stuff can really help break that down easily for you so that you can maximize your reach across multiple social channels instead of spending hours trying to cut it all up yourself. Um, Sarah, what I guess how can a marketing agency, because that's a lot of our audience, our digital marketing agencies and freelance digital marketers, how can they 10x their content marketing without having to hire more staff?
Yeah. So I work with a lot of agencies too as a partner, usually doing content strategy for their clients. And then I end up doing content strategy for them because marketing agencies don't have time to market them for themselves.
A lot of them, yeah.
They don't. So one, utilizing those AI pieces, and two, creating something that's like serial content, some sort of series that makes it really systemized to produce on a regular basis, and then repurposing it to be everywhere else. So, like, we're on a podcast right now. I have a podcast too. That's a great way of having a commitment. I have to create an episode once a week or twice a week, whatever your cadence is. And then you can repurpose it using Toasty and Opus to show up all of the other times. But that's a really easy way to do it. And don't miss out on email marketing. So many people are afraid that their audience is going to be annoyed if they email them, but they wouldn't have subscribed to your emails if they didn't want to hear from you. So making
Right.
sure that you show up every single week with something. So my podcast is bi-weekly. So every other week it's about the podcast episode. And
Mhm.
then the off weeks, the opposite weeks of that, it might be about a social media post that I posted on LinkedIn that I think might help them, or something like a video I posted in my community, something like that. Just tiny little tips that keep them engaged, give them value, and keep them remembering I exist in the first place. There's a lot of people competing.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that suggestion. And you could probably use this Toasty AI to create that email copy
Yeah.
from your podcast episode on those every other weeks, right?
You could, yeah. So there is a section in Toasty where you can do it's kind of like a chat GPT prompt. So you just ask them to do something and it'll do it
Yeah,
for you. So you could essentially do that.
that's very cool. There's another one called Oasis that I downloaded on my phone to try recently that does the same thing. You can give it just a few sentences, like, never get off a sales call without a close, a sale, or a follow up booked. Don't ever leave out any other outcome other than that. You could just say that into it, and it will take that lesson or that few sentences, and it will create a full blog post,
What?
a LinkedIn post, a tweet thread series, and it creates all different forms of content from it. Now, it's I've tried it a few times. It's a little body and you need to still edit it to make it not sound so robot-y, but it does a pretty good job in taking just a few, you say it, you don't even type it, you say it in, and it just
That
takes
is
it and turns it into
intriguing.
in seconds. Yeah. So that's another one that you may want to check out that I'm just, my gears are turning as you're talking about. Don't forget email, because you can write a quick email like that and just edit it quick instead of having to really, because a lot
Like,
of people I think aren't huge on their content marketing just because they're scared of like it takes them a long time to write something out and it feels exhausting and it feels overwhelming. But if you can give a tool a short thing and it creates most of the work for you and you're just editing
yeah,
up the ends, much better.
agreed. Yeah. I use content at scale for like long form content that is AI. And I mean, it does take a lot of editing to make it sound like me, but it's also like 4,000 word article that with like resources pulled in and everything. So it still saves me tons of time.
Wow. This episode wasn't even supposed to be about AI,
It
but let
wasn't.
me tell you, it's hard to like not even talk about AI in today's world because it's just taking over so many things. And if us as marketers, everyone in every industry, but definitely us as marketers, if we don't lean into it and start utilizing it, then we're going to get lapped by all the other businesses
100%.
that are doing it.
Yeah, and that is something that like content marketers really need to understand because there's so many things about like, oh, I hate AI, it's taking over our jobs. No, it's not taking over my job because there's strategy involved in it and there's
Hmm.
editing and there's making it sound like you and bringing influencers in. It's taking over people's jobs that didn't have those skill sets to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. You're right now, we're in a great place where AI can make what we're already doing better,
Mm,
easier, faster,
faster.
more efficient.
Yeah.
Um, and if you're not utilizing that, then you're going to be the
Hmm.
slowest runner on the block, and you don't want to do that. And I think it's going to actually, for the people that are willing to lean into it and use it, it's going to be amazing because you're going to be able to, like never before, rise to the top with all types of stuff and just crank out so much more volume.
Yeah, it'll be so much easier. And you just really need to start with one original thing, and then you can use AI to multiply it so you're showing up consistently for your audience.
Yeah, I love it. So you mentioned email and how important email was
Mm,
before, and one of the bedrocks of email marketing is at least like a welcome email sequence. Once somebody opts in or contacts you on your website or reaches out in any way, shape, or form to the stuff that we're constantly putting out into the ecosphere. So, what would be a welcome email sequence? I hear you have a 3-step formula for this. So, can you share that with us?
yeah. So I started off with a gift. So thanks for signing up, and here's some sort of gift. A really great one. No, so side note, I'll go here and then I'll go there. Um,
Okay.
so start with that gift, and it'll be whatever your lead magnet is. Welcoming them to the community. Here's the lead magnet. And then the second one would be more of an introduction to who you are and who you serve and how you help them. So that would be number 2. And then number 3, I like to give a virtual tour. These are the places that I hang out online. This is the kind of content that I produce, and this is how I help you. And then you can encourage people to subscribe to your YouTube channel or follow your podcast, whatever it is that the content that you do specifically. I'm actually going to make this a 4-part right now, because then the next one would be an ask for a sale. So it could be some sort of small digital product, or it could be, if you're interested in discovery call, click here, telling them a little bit more about your signature offer in that 4th email. So I'm making it 4 because usually at that point, after the 3 steps, you transition over to a sales sequence and then nurture.
How long was your sales sequence?
7 emails is
7. So
my
you got
usual,
4 days welcome into a full week of sales into regular nurture.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah. But you can mix it up too. If you don't want to go directly into like a sequential block of sales emails, you can schedule it where it's more of like a evergreen sales funnel, where you do your nurtures, like let's say every Tuesday is your newsletter. And then like maybe once a month or every other Thursday, your sales email goes out. And you don't want it to be super salesy, but you want it to move people through the sales process, where you're talking about possible objections they might have, transformational promises, things like that, and then explaining how your signature offer fixes that.
Yeah, very, very cool. So you said, just to wrap up the welcome email, you said the first one is giving them the lead magnet.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is what?
Is like an about me, where you're talking about who you serve, how you solve their problem, and who you are.
Okay.
Like why you're the best person to solve it.
Lead magnet, about me, who,
Mm-hmm.
get to know me, then a tour of where you can find all of your resources, your podcasts, your
Mm-hmm.
articles, your
Yep.
not blogs,
Virtual tour.
virtual tour. And then the fourth one is asking for the sale.
Yeah,
Love it.
exactly.
Love it. So for a lot of our listeners as digital marketing agencies, they are asking for a sales call or discovery call to learn more about the client, to then be able to potentially pitch, higher ticket marketing services. So that ask for the sale in their case would be asking for a booked call, kind of like a Calendly.
Yeah. So you can tell them a bit about your signature offer, or if you're an agency, like a full scale agency where you do a little bit of everything, maybe that one would be good for like a testimonial or a case study email. And then you ask for a fit call or a discovery call, whatever you call it.
Yeah. So in the case of a digital marketing agency, once we move from the fourth email into the 7-day sales drip,
Mm-hmm.
would you be asking for the booked call in all 7 of them, or not? Is there a call to
Yeah.
action in all of them?
I actually just wrote a sales series for one of my clients yesterday, so it's fresh on my mind. Yeah,
Nice.
I like to add, like, here's how you schedule a call with me, in a PS, because people always kind of scan emails, but in the PS, their eyes always go straight to it. So say,
Ah,
PS, if you want to schedule a fit call, click here.
I love that. That's a really good tip. I'm going to try that out in my own sequence and see if that
Yeah.
increases clicks. That's really, really good. So, what are some ways a marketing agency can use content marketing to specifically gain more clients? Is there, places that are better for them than others? I hear a lot of people say, don't try to be everywhere all the
Mm-hmm.
time, all at once. Do you subscribe to that logic,
Yes.
or do you try to be everywhere all at once? What do you think?
Yeah. So at this point, I'm in a lot of places, but I focus on LinkedIn because that is where my clients are. And then, so original content goes on LinkedIn, and then I'll repurpose it on other platforms.
Okay.
But I create what I call a strategic story for my clients, where it's um, basically what it is customer avatar, customer journey, brand messaging, content, marketing action plan. And so I start with that customer journey is really the guiding light for me on how I decide what channels to be on. Like, where's my perfect customer hanging out? That's the only channel that really matters. What kind of content do they like? That's the only thing that really matters. And then
Yeah.
because I've been around for a while, will repurpose it in other places, but you only have to be where they are.
Wow. So then thinking in terms of, because I'm always trying to like reframe it back for our audience, which is digital marketing agencies, right? So thinking in terms of digital marketing agencies, many of them, most of them are niched. So you have an
Mhm.
agency that, they serve dentists. You have an agency that they serve chiropractors and e-commerce. So then using what Sarah said, really you guys need to think about, where does your target audience spend their time? Where do dentists get their information? Where do chiropractors, where do e-commerce stores? And then that's kind of where you should focus your, digital marketing efforts in terms of content. Would that be right?
Yes. So the first thing I do is I interview customers for my clients, and I find out exactly what their journey was, what triggered them to look for a solution in the first place, what challenges they were going through, where they
Where
hang
did they
out.
look for that solution?
Yeah, where did they look for that solution? What's their process when they're trying to solve a problem? These are the kind of questions I go through with their customers, and that gives you a lot of insight on what really matters. I create a ton of strategic stories for my clients, and none have been the same because I'm not working with the same
Wow.
people. None.
Can you
Sometimes
give
I'm
us
like,
can you give us an example of this? Like what is an example of a customer journey that they surprised the client that they're like, "Oh, well, we didn't even know that's
yeah.
how they got to us."
So I did one not too long ago where we were focusing in on CIOs. We wanted to work with CIOs. And you'd think like tech people, they'd be hanging out digitally. They were not. They get all of their information in an analog way. So it's all referrals going to their networking groups, and the content that they consume is almost always through conferences. So it was
Wow.
a lot of networking groups we were looking for, communities where they spend time, and relationship building, business development. These were the strategies we went through with them, where other customers I've worked with, it's strictly digital, where they love podcasts, this is where we need to be, and they hang out on LinkedIn. But it was funny, CIOs, they are very offline when it comes to
Wow.
getting information and learning.
I never would have guessed that either. And so
No.
that then the company has to kind of rethink, where are we spending our money and our time
Mhm.
and effort if it's not getting to the right things. And then you got to think, okay, so how do we get into the trade show rags? How do we make sure that we're attending these trade shows and making an appearance there and that kind of stuff? So that's
Yeah.
huge data that can make a big
Which ones are
impact.
they going to? Finding that out, and how can you amplify your reach when you do go to them? Like, can you get speaking engagements at those conferences? Because that is like marketing one to many, and there's a really cool funnel that you can do to convert that audience to your own.
Yeah. Yeah. By having like a barcode or a QR code, I mean, or something at the end that brings everybody in the
Yeah.
audience to the same page to your funnel on their phone right then and kind of having them sign up and book calls and everything would be
Well, the
really, really cool.
best sales funnel that I've seen through speaking engagements is, yes, that QR code, but sending them to like a live masterclass or a workshop, something like that, where you can have a more personalized connection with them, and you're giving them a little win during that process. And then from that point, it's so easy to sell because you've already proven that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you
You've
can,
become that authority figure.
yeah. And the masterclass can be an extension of whatever that talk was on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, one of the tactics that I put in my course, and I was teaching agency owners this. It's like that, but on a smaller scale. There was a time not too long ago where WeWork and Meetup.com had a partnership, and they
Mhm.
and WeWorks in all major cities would allow meetup.com groups to meet in their communal spaces, which are really
Oh,
nice, like
that's a
really
cool
nice,
partnership.
for free
That's a good
and
deal.
huge because they're so expensive to rent those things out just for like even like an hour or two. And so you could have your meetup there. And so I was one of the strategies that worked really, really well was starting a free meetup group and just hosting a live, digital marketing for your small business. How to
Yes.
get ahead on social media, how to run some paid ads for yourself, not how to hire an agency, but how to do it as the boss and CEO, yourself.
Yes,
And
I love that.
it was great. It worked very well. You'd collect a bunch of business owners. I mean, my class, when I did it, my classes were full. I'd have business owners sitting everywhere, just watching me show them how to post on social media, how to get their posts out there, how to run a few basic ads, what a funnel is. And I mean, the hour went by like that, and everybody wants to get more information and sign up for some type of service after because they see your authority figure, they see how
Yes.
overwhelming it is and how big it is, and now you've got the audience.
That's exactly it when you're teaching something, is that, yes, you give them a little win, but you're also showing them that it's so much harder than they
Yeah,
might think, and then they hire you to do it. But I
yeah.
love that idea. So how did you fill your classes? Was it just like Meetup was enough? You didn't have to advertise
Yeah,
it?
it was so amazing. There was at that time, there was this super cool, I mean, just meetup.com, first off, they push your events for free. So there was no promotion needed. You literally just put up the event. You needed to give it time though. So you'd create the event for like in 2 months. There's going to
Mhm.
be a meetup at WeWork. We start a group on meetup.com for, digital marketing in South Florida or something, let's say. And then you'd start schedule meetups like every 2 months out, so that they have time to build steam, and just have it as a free masterclass. Learn how to run
Brilliant.
social media and social media ads for your business. And they would fill up like crazy. I go in and check every day, and we had 7 more people in the group and 3 more people that signed up for the event, and the
That's
events would sell
amazing.
out. And yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it was completely free, and it worked really, really well.
So
Now, unfortunately, WeWork doesn't host them for free anymore. So
okay, yeah.
you can do
I
the
was
same
like
thing. You can do the same thing if you're listening, but you're going to have to find a spot. You need to find a venue spot for it. And so there's one thing that's worked really well for me is there are colleges and universities, and I'm not talking about like, don't like call up like look at like Kaiser or different smaller universities and more like trade school style
Mhm.
schools, and they will be more than happy to let you come in on a Saturday and teach their marketing students along with members of the public and things like that. Like there are ways that
Hmm,
you can get free spaces.
that's
Also, public
smart.
libraries will do it as well.
Yes, I knew that about I assumed that you'd have to pay for the college space, so that I really like that idea because you're also helping the youths
Yeah. You're
learn
I mean, you're
something.
you're coming and you're providing free value because the college already owns all you need is one classroom. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
just need one classroom with a whiteboard, which they have, and they're unused on the weekends. So literally, you're giving the university a free resource, and teaching people, especially in the marketing field, or if they're MBA on the way there as well. And then you could bring in other people from outside. So it's a cool hack to find to get in front of people in your
Brilliant.
area. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love teaching workshops, but I haven't tried any of what you're talking about now, and I am going to.
Yes, definitely do it and let me know how it goes.
I
So, I
will.
want to ask you, bringing it back to content, one thing that has always troubled digital marketers is trying to prove to their boss
The ROI.
that something is working, right? Like, I promise you, social media is working, and they don't. Ads is easy. Ads is clear. We have a cost per book call, we have a cost per sale, we have a cost per click, right? Those are easy. Where it becomes less easy is in regular content marketing. You have articles, you have podcasts, you're clipping them up and you're putting them on social. And we see that they're getting traction and getting attention. And in many cases, the people that are coming through the ads are doing their due diligence in the process, right? And they're going over the pages, and the content that we're putting out is what gives them the confidence to move forward with the purchase, even though they were
Mhm.
originally brought in by the ads. So there's tons of benefit. We know that. But what are the KPIs that you actually look for to say, client or boss, this is working?
Yeah. So one thing that I would track is, of those booked calls, can you see what content that they viewed in the past? Because, like, if you're using HubSpot, for example, you can track someone who signed up for something. If they booked a call with you, they're being tracked after that, and you can see what content that they're viewing and how
Hmm.
it influences them. So that's one thing. And then having like clear funnels with your content makes it a lot easier too. So you can see people are moving from this top of funnel content through to middle and bottom. You're able to track that through analytics, and it'll give you a good idea of how it's affecting people.
Yeah.
And then looking at how many leads that you're getting once you've started creating content consistently, because the idea of content is to build that trust and value before the call. So your sales cycle should be shorter. Track that. How long is your sales cycle? And you should be getting more booked calls because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There are ways where you can, implement software and tracking to help, guide, is this working, is this not? But I also do want to say, for those of you that, are, in the beginning stages and you're just starting out and you're feeling overwhelmed by, I got to get all this content out there on all these pages and everything, start small, work your
Mhm.
way up, and don't be discouraged if you don't have a whole ton of views or a bunch of, or, thousands of followers. Everybody that grows for themselves or for a brand has to start somewhere. And there are many, many podcasts out there that have very, very few views until, year two. And then all of a sudden they're taking off.
Yeah,
I know, Hormozy, who is huge now,
I love
he
his
spent,
books.
he's so good. And his podcast phenomenal. His YouTube video is so good. But, he went for, over a year or more on his podcast where it had almost barely any views at all. And then all of a sudden, his brand started taking off, and that went off. But if he stopped, a year and a half into it, he would be nowhere where he is today, which he's like a billionaire. So you have to stay persistent. You have to keep at it. And you have to know that even if you don't have, a ton of views, that it can still absolutely be working for you.
Yeah. That is something I want to dig a little bit deeper on. Just
Yeah.
um don't be discouraged if you don't have a ton of engagement or a ton of views, because the money is in the lurkers. A lot
Hmm.
of times people view your content and they don't interact with you, and then you find out later that they were reading everything that you were reading, and they just weren't commenting or weren't liking, and that's okay. That I've actually never had a client or someone who became a client comment on anything I've created, but they tell me later that that's how they found me. So it
Yeah.
matters. And if you are just starting out and you're feeling overwhelmed at the prospect of it, start out with just a long form guide. And that will be robust content that you can add value to and can be repurposed. And then move into some sort of serial type of content that you can consistently create. But just start off with one long thing that is helpful to people.
Yeah, because you can take that long thing, chop it up, make lots of little things, like we
Hmm.
mentioned earlier. Yeah, and I think what you said, that there's money in the lurkers, that is so, so true. One thing people lose sight of in social media is, it's followers, likes, and comments and shares don't pay the bills. They're
No.
not dollars at the end of the day, right? So if you're judging how effective your social is by how much engagement it is, you're actually quite off the mark, because you could have tons of engagement and no sales. And is that a successful strategy? In most people's opinions, no, right? We're all here to grow the business and make more money. And if you're not making money on it, but you got lots of likes, the machine is still broke, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
who
And
cares?
right, right. So you could have very few likes, very few followers, but the right people that are in your sales cycle are liking your content and viewing it and building that trust that they need to make the sale with it. And that's all you need. That's a successful strategy, right?
Hmm.
My agency spends a lot of money on paid ads. And if we didn't pump out content regularly, we'd be losing a lot of people from the paid ads because they'd be coming in and be going, who's this guy? What do they do? They'd be looking us up and they wouldn't find any content. They wouldn't find
Yep.
anything to trust. Like, who the heck, who's that? So then you lose the sale because you didn't, put something out there online that says, we're real, we're established, we're an authority in the space, and you lose a lot of credibility. Even if you don't have tons of likes, followers, and everything, you need to impress that one buyer that's in the active buying
Hmm.
phase. That's who you need to impress,
Yeah.
not 10,000 other people that aren't going to buy from you.
Yes, that is exactly like if I were your ideal customer, I would explain it to you that way too, that I click on an ad, but then I bounce around to all of your content and see if you actually know what you're talking about before anything. And I'm a rapid buyer. If I like what you're teaching, I'm in. But if
Right.
you don't have content to prove that you know what you're doing, I'm out.
Right. It's in today's world, it's a massive red flag.
Hmm.
If you have, big bold ads, but then nothing online and no presence, it's a massive red flag for a lot of people. And people
Yeah.
aren't dumb. People are not dumb. They do their research. Everyone does their due diligence. It's very easy and accessible to do that kind of stuff online today. And so if you're not showing up, and putting yourself out there for those lurkers, for those people in the buying process, you're leaving a ton of money on the table. So I'm glad we did get to say that. Um, Sarah, what social platforms do you recommend your clients be on and why? Is there some that are just the best? Does it go back to, what your goals are? Or how do you define that for your clients?
Yeah, I usually define it during that strategic story because it depends where your customers are hanging out. But I tend to work with B2B companies. So
Hmm.
LinkedIn has always been great for that arena.
Yeah.
And that's where I spend my time. But I'm also open-minded. If my customer interviews tell me, like, actually, this group of people, they're hanging out on TikTok, I'm like, get the hell on TikTok. That's
Yeah.
that's where you should be. It depends where your customers are hanging out, but I have found LinkedIn to be the most useful.
Now, do you focus mostly on just content to be posted on LinkedIn with call to actions, or do you also work with like connector campaigns as well?
I do a lot of zero-click content to keeping people on the platform because
Oh, okay.
well, I was going to say LinkedIn, but all social media platforms prefer that because they don't want people to send it away. So the algorithm will
Uh-huh.
show you more often if it's zero click. But I if I do have a call to action, it's usually in a PS at the very end after I've already added value. And then the link is always in the comments because social media hates links.
Yeah, interesting. That's a very good tip as well, guys. I would write that down. Start testing, A/B testing in your content. If you're putting a lot of outbound links in your post, start A/B testing some content that has no links, or the link is in the content, or the link is in the comments
Hmm.
instead, and see if those go farther. Because ultimately, yes, they do want you to stay on platform. We do a lot of the content part of it, but also the connector campaigns. So initiating the conversation in DMs with the ideal target, right? Which keeps them on platform as well until there's a call to be booked. But even then, our team books the call on our end. So instead of sending the link and asking them to book in, because there's a lot of drop off with that,
Hmm.
it's what time and date works for you for a strategy call Monday at 4 p.m. Okay, great. What's your email and phone number? We enter it into our own booking form, and
That's
then they get the
smart.
confirmation. Everyone stays on platform, and there's a sales call booked.
Yeah, usually when I get a link, a calendar
That's
link,
where that's where it
yeah,
ends.
I'm like,
It's
nah.
it's so crazy because there's this weird human psychological phenomenon that we have witnessed because we've worked so many clients doing the same strategy, and it's like it's wild. You'll have an amazing conversation with a very interested person who is very actively engaging, responding quick, and everything. Says they want the call. You give them the link, and it just boom. That's it. It
Yeah.
disappears. And it's like, what is that? There's this weird psychological thing about booking the call. So now the answer is literally just asking, what is a good time and date? Great. What's your contact information? Fill it out yourself, and boom, it's in their calendar. And it works so much better. It's because just human psychology.
That's smart. Yeah. I definitely
It's
bounce when I get a
yeah,
link.
yeah, me too, me too. But I don't know why we do it. There's
I
something
don't
there.
either.
There's something there.
It's a psychological trigger. I'm like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I totally get it. How important, we've talked about this a little bit more. How important would you say, 1 out of 10 is repurposing content for a successful content marketing strategy?
10. People are probably not going to see your content much the first time around.
Mhm.
And without it, I consider it a distribution strategy, repurposing, because it's just the goal is to get eyes on that original piece of content. So, like we were talking about podcasts earlier and Opus. So, you create 12 new videos from your podcast. My goal with every single one of those times I'm sharing it out is to get people over to the original piece of content. It's all about distribution.
So are you saying when you post these clips, are you saying in the comments or in the caption, link to the full episode in
Mhm.
bio? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. To try and get them over. Okay, makes sense. Um, I do. We're running out of time, but I quickly do want to ask you, what are your thoughts on X, the new, the new rebrand of Twitter?
Ah, I don't know. Twitter is such a joke to me at this point. Elon Musk has just embarrassed it. So I don't even go on it anymore.
Yeah. How about Threads? Have you embraced Threads?
I'm on it, but I haven't embraced it yet. I I think that it'll be a great Twitter replacement
Mhm.
because I don't know. I honestly think Elon Musk is thinking Twitter is a big practical joke. And
Yeah.
he's like, we're going to rebrand this now and
To
you
me,
pay for a check mark.
it feels like because he overpaid so much for it, like $44 billion, like way
Yeah,
more than it was actually valued. I feel like he's intentionally tanking it so he can claim bankruptcy on it.
I think
Like
so too. Yeah.
it's
I
just
have the same theory that he's pissed off about the whole deal and just trying to tank it.
yeah, because like what every time you think he can't do something more damaging to it,
Yeah,
he
you're like,
does.
what's happening right now?
Yeah. Like the only people that are still like, yeah, yeah, Twitter are like total Elon fanboys that he could do
Yeah.
anything he wants and they're just gonna be like, yeah, 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 yeah. So it's wild. I have embraced threads. I, started using it right away and was able to bring a good portion of my Instagram followers over and very happy with that. It's in the last week it started to very much stagnate in terms of follower growth. Like that whole big shift over from Instagram has died now, so now
Yeah.
it's very slow. The engagement is much slower, but I'm hoping that now we're kind of going to see a slow and steady rise in the platform because honestly, I like it so much more than Twitter. It's
Do
a
you?
Yeah, it's so much like nicer and like the people are just not as toxic and negative and
Hmm.
there's not as much like first off, there's also no ads, which is another huge thing.
Oh,
And there's
that
just
is
not
nice.
just so much less garbage. Like there's not spam bots everywhere. There's not, hate speech and all kinds of stuff. It's a nicer place. I wish there was more
Social
engagement,
media
but
without
I like
hate?
it. I know. No, I'm sure there's some there, but not anywhere near the amount you see on Twitter.
Your
Like,
algorithm found the happy
hmm
place.
I love it. Yeah. So, what do you say to clients, Sarah, who say that they just don't know what to post?
Yeah. So I go back to their strategy because it's really easy to know exactly what to post. You need to understand what challenges your customers are going through and talk about them. There's an endless amount of content. And if you are struggling to know exactly what to post, but you do know their challenges, go to ChatGPT and throw in, my customer is blah, and their challenges are blah, blah, and blah. What are 20 topics I can talk about on this subject? And I'm sure you'll find at least one that you like.
Yeah, now that AI is out, there are zero excuses for writer's block or, content
Yeah.
creation block because one of the best features of AI is inspiration.
Mm.
It's not there yet where you can just say, "Hey, write tweets for me, write a blog post for me." Because if you did just straight up copy paste it, it would look very robotic and almost obviously AI in most cases, even with Chat GPT 4. you need several iterations of it, and it needs to be finessed, edited
Yeah.
a little bit still. But it will give you the inspiration for the idea. Like, I will ask ChatGPT when I'm just completely blanked and I need to send some tweets, I need to get some stuff out there, write, 5 tweets, 10 tweets about improving sales for, this type of client. And it will write 10 of them, and I'll read them, and I won't copy paste any of them, but I'll be like, "Oh, but that's a good, like, thought start."
Yeah. It'll
Then I'll create
trigger
a completely
something.
separate. Correct. It's amazing
Yeah.
for inspiration. So that's a
I
great.
so let's just I know we don't have a lot of time,
No,
but
you're
let's
good. You're
rabbit hole
fine.
a little bit on this.
Yeah.
So 3 things that I always use AI for is, 1, I love the iteration, the idea aspect that you were just talking about. And 2, I'll copy and paste what I've already written in there and then ask for the key takeaways for a specific audience. What would this X audience care about most in this article? Give me 5. And then those will be my social media post ideas, the things that I focus on for those social to promote that article or whatever it is. So
Wow.
it's great
You
for like
upload the
summer.
article and
Yeah.
ask what are 5 points that are the most important for the audience,
Yeah.
basically? Great.
Hmm.
Okay.
And then it gives me a good starting point of, okay, so these are the things that this specific audience would care most about in this article. So those are the things I'll highlight on social. Yeah,
And you're
because I
uploading
don't
that with what AI tool?
chat GPT.
That's ChatGPT. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
so that's what I use that for. And then the third thing I always use it for is critiquing. I ask ChatGPT to critique my sales page or my blog. What do you like about it? What do you hate about it? And what should I change? And it gives me a good like second set of eyes before I start editing.
Yeah, one thing I just very recently started doing is uploading my landing pages and asking for, what are some areas that we could further optimize and improve the landing page
Yes.
for better conversions. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'm gonna have to park my defensiveness and park my ego, because it'll be like, well, the headline's kind of weak, and I really think that it could be a little stronger there, and the button really doesn't stand out that much. I don't the color is not good. I'm like, that's a great yellow. What are you talking about,
That
ChatGPT?
yellow
What do
is
you mean?
perfect and you
Yeah,
suck.
yeah. So sometimes I have to be like, all right, AI, it's all right. I'll try what you say and see what I think. Um,
Yeah, I write fiction for fun, like short stories. So this weekend I wrote one and then I uploaded it and I asked it to beta read it, like critique it like you're a beta reader. And I was like, oh, well, thank you for the compliments, but now I'm embarrassed. about
oh, did it like it or did it not like it?
It did like it, but I asked it to critique me. So then it gave me multiple points that I should improve on it.
Oh,
Oh,
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. You're like, "Okay, thanks." Yeah, yeah, exactly. When you ask, you have
who
to
do
be
you
ready
think you
because it
are?
it it won't hold back. Yeah,
No,
you have
it
to be ready for
doesn't.
it.
There's no there's no ego there.
I have one last question for you that I ask all of my podcast guests, on this show, as their parting, question. So that question is, what would be your number one piece of advice for a brand new agency owner that is just starting out in the business?
What would be my piece of advice for a brand new I would say network a lot. The so while content marketing has brought in the vast majority of my clients, at the beginning it's all about the people you know and building relationships. So build that piece into your content marketing. And uh, I mean, a lot of my clients came from people I interviewed on my podcast or my live stream show, referrals from them. So you can make that part of your process and you'll grow a lot faster.
I love it. And what I love about that so much is it's free. And, a lot of people, they run to paid ads. My agency, we're big on paid ads, and we spend a lot of money to get people in the door and looking at us and into our pipeline and everything. But when you're just starting out and you don't have that budget to do that, you
Mhm.
have to you have to turn to more organic methods like content marketing and like your local network. My first 3 or 4 clients all came from my local area, my local network, who, when you decide, I'm going to start my marketing agency, I'm going to go off on my own business, I'm going to do this thing, the first place that you should look is, who do I know that has a business? Who do I know in my friends, family network that I can tell about this and offer some type of services? And don't, charge them a massive agency price, charge them a freelancer price just to get some money in the door
Yeah.
and get some work and case studies out there. But you can find, that low hanging fruit, those first great clients. My very first client is a nonprofit organization, massive nonprofit organization. They're the biggest HIV/AIDS organization in the entire world, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, and I volunteered for them for 6 months or so, and then I used that relationship to have one of my first clients in my agency, and it was phenomenal. And they're still with me now, 8 years later,
Wow. That's
as a client.
impressive.
Yeah, I haven't raised their retainer since they joined, because it's just like, it's kind of like a good omen. Like,
Yeah.
I'll just keep them where they're at, keep them right there, because it's just like a
They're
reminder
worth
of like
it.
where you came from. But yeah, it's great advice. Use your local network, find that low hanging fruit, and definitely lean into content marketing to create those relationships and get some clients in the door when you're just starting out.
Yeah, collaborative content marketing, to be specific, bringing people in so you can have those relationships built. That's why my dogs are going nuts. The landscapers here. Can you hear the
Oh,
lawnmower?
trust me, I can relate on that one. Sarah, thank you so much. It was a fantastic episode with tons of nuggets. I have on my notepad over here like all these things written down. So I know when I learn a lot, that the audience learns a lot too. So thank
Good.
you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.